Hello and welcome to another day on Cornwall Pocket Farm. My name is Jenny and today I'm going to bring you along for a make which has taken me quite some time to finish. I've had a lot of different projects going on at the same time, all sort of happening, and usually I like to try and do one project and then see that through to the end, but it's not been like that at the moment. I've got a whole bunch of stuff on, so this project has taken me weeks and weeks and weeks, basically. Well, multiple weekends, shall we say. So I'm really pleased to have it finished, and as you can tell, I'm wearing it. So I bought this fabric quite a number of years ago now, and it's been sat up in my stash. And I thought I really wanted to get on and make something with it. It's a really lovely sort of heavyweight, sort of cotton Liberty print in a sort of a twill weave. So when I decided I was going to make something, in my head I just thought, oh, well, I'll make a skirt, not really remembering how much I had. But when I did my sort of fabric stash audit, if you like, I did a video about that, I'll put a link to it up here. When I did that, I realised I had more fabric than a skirt, and I liked the fabric so much I thought it would be a waste just to do a skirt out of it. So I decided it needed to be a dress. So when I was doing my capsule wardrobe for travel last year, again, I'll put a link to the video up here where I showcased my full capsule wardrobe. So when I did that, I was really against the clock. I was trying to knock things out quickly because, of course, my trip was coming up and I wanted to take these clothes away for my trip to Europe. So with other things that I make, I don't generally sort of race through it. So I'm not the sort of channel where you're going to see like a brand new sort of popular make every week, because that's just not the way I work. I take my time, and it'll take multiple weekends, several weeks to finish a garment, which it did for this. And I have another garment which hopefully will be coming up soon, which literally has taken months because it's been in the naughty corner several times. Anyway, that'll be coming up on this channel soon if I ever get around to finishing it. This took a little while to finish, but I'm really pleased with this result, and I'm actually really pleased with the finish as well. There were, of course, a few hiccups along the way, as there always are. If you watch, you'll find the issues I encountered and conquered in the making of this dress. And then, of course, at the end, there will be the reveal because I now have it on, and that's the next bit I'm going to film. So, without further ado, let's get on with the making of this Liberty print dress. So this weekend I decided I wanted to start that dress that I mentioned in my last video. So if you remember, in my last video I talked about the grey dress that is my favourite dress, which is a clone of my favourite ever dress, and I mentioned that I was going to make another one out of this beautiful Liberty print fabric. It's a sort of a relatively heavyweight cotton. Now what I want to do is the same top half, but then join on a slimmer skirt. So the grey dress that I've just recently made with the broderie anglaise and the original navy version of it, both had sort of pleated, gathered-y sort of skirts. With this one I want to make a slim skirt. I'd like to put in some sort of slit pockets here, not slit pockets, what would they be called? You know, sort of pockets that come like that. The sort of pockets that I put on my maroon skirt, my maroon slightly stretchy skirt that I showed you in a recent video. If I can remember, I'll put up a picture. But I'd like to put some pockets in the front. It has buttons down to the waist, and with the grey dress I didn't actually put any other clothing, and I didn't actually take the buttons past the waist because I know that the navy dress and this grey dress just basically slips over my head. That's the wonderful thing about not being too endowed on the top half. I can easily get things on and off. So this one might be slightly more fitted, but I still really don't want to take the buttons down onto the skirt portion. So what I'm going to do is make it, cut it out, make it and everything, but I'm going to leave the side seam just pinned until the last moment to see if I can actually get it on and off without having to put any side zip in, but obviously leaving the option that I could put a side zip in if I need to. This is going to be, as I say, a fitted skirt, pockets here, probably put maybe some little pleats in the front as well, I'm not really sure. And of course, with it being a slim skirt, I'll need to put some sort of back vent in the back so that I can walk. I do a lot of walking, striding and riding a bike. So I need to have enough movement that I can actually do those things. So I think a simple slit in the back, because this fabric is really quite busy, I don't think there's any point in putting any sort of fancy pleat in the back or anything like that. I'm just going to put a very simple vent. That's the plan. So I've got out my pattern pieces that I made for the grey dress. I have tried all these pattern pieces on the fabric that I have, and I do have enough at the bottom. I've got about 70 centimetres, which is ample enough to make a skirt for me because I'm quite short. So I've got enough fabric to make a slim skirt. The slim skirt pattern that I'm going to attach, I think I'm going to use, well, I've got two options here. I've got the blue linen skirt that I did as part of my broderie outfit in my capsule wardrobe collection. I've got that skirt, which has sort of pockets that work like that. And I also have the maroon skirt, which was made out of a sort of a wool jersey, slightly stretchy, but that skirt, I got the pattern from that out of a vintage pattern that I have. So between those two patterns, I'm going to put something together which will be a little bit different than those two, of course, because I have to make sure that the waist is the same circumference as the bottom of the top, obviously, because those skirts are designed to go into a fitted waistband, and I want the waist on it to be a bit looser because it's just going to attach to the bottom of the bodice part. So I shall have to make the waist slightly, adapt the waist slightly so that it fits onto this bodice. The first thing I need to do is actually get out those two skirt patterns and create a new skirt pattern that will fit with this this new dress. That'll be quite nice because then I will have, with the bodice that I like, I will then have two skirt options. If I want to make it again, I'll have a slim version and a fuller version, which most of the vintage patterns that I've seen have those two options, and I do like the way that you can sort of mix and match those things when you're making a new garment. Anyway, let's get on with that. I need to come up with a labelling system for these patterns because they're all a bit random. Ah, here we go. This is the broderie skirt in here. So we have broderie skirt. There we go. That is in there. Right. I'll leave. Well, at the moment, all I've got is a bit of paper with the name in on pencil, which is okay, but isn't ideal. So that's that skirt. And do I have the red one here? Probably not. These look like they're all my travel ones. Yeah, I'll have to find this other pattern and get back to you. Change of plan. I've just been having a biscuit. I'm not sure about my original plan to do a slim skirt. I think I'm quite tempted by a slight A-line, partly because I just did that lace dress, and because I ended up flaring it out to the scalloped hem, I actually really quite like the shape of that skirt. So the way I'm feeling at the moment is that maybe it'll perhaps be an A-line skirt. Hold that thought, you'll find out quicker than I will, no doubt, because it'll be on the next bit of video. But what I'm going to do, I think, is get out my paper. I've decided to go from the block rather than trying to mash up two patterns which themselves are mashups from something else. So I've decided to go back to the basic block. Yeah, I'll bring you back when I've got somewhere with that. Okay, so I've done the back. What I decided in the end was to keep one of my back darts. Let me show you my block. So this is my block. I have two large darts in the back because there's a big difference between my waist and my hips. So what I've done is I've kept one of the darts and I have lined it up with the princess seam from the bodice. The other dart, I have actually folded that dart into making this more A-line. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of how to do that. If you have a look at the Closet Historian on YouTube, there she has some excellent videos on how to move your darts into an A-line skirt. I've done that technique with one dart, but I've kept the other dart because this dart will line up, as I say, with the princess seam coming down from the bodice. So the back now looks like that. So I have one dart here and it has a slight A-line shape. Now the reason I did that was I decided that I didn't want to go to all the faff of having a back vent. Plus, to have a back vent you need to have a back seam, and given that this dress is very busy in the fabric and there really isn't any reason to have a back seam, well, the only reason would be the back vent, I thought, well, I don't want a back vent, but how am I going to make it so I can walk? And I decided to do this sort of slightly A-line look. Now, I am not going to do that A-line, I don't think, at the moment, on the front. So it'll be more flared in the back than it will in the front, essentially. Hopefully that'll work. I do have vintage patterns where they've done that on dresses, where the front part of the dress is basically just a standard straight skirt, and then when you look in the back it's actually sort of really quite a full skirt at the back, and I really like that look. So I've decided to do it a little bit on this dress and see if it works. Fingers crossed. It's always an experiment. Whenever I do these things I never know what I'm going to get, and usually, as you'll know if you watch my videos for a while, I usually get a little bit of a hiccup part way through. And hopefully I can work my way through the hiccup, but by doing that, by getting the hiccup and then figuring it out and then coming up to the solution, I usually learn so much that it's really worth it. The next thing I need to do is draw the front and see how that works. Now the challenge on the front is that the front block at the moment is just a very simple pencil skirt with a dart at the top, one dart at the top. What I need to do on this is convert it so that I have a pocket. I think I want a sort of a scoop pocket that comes up, and I want this pocket to come up so that this bit coming up here is going to line up with the princess seams that are in the top. And I've also got to sort of fold the dart into that somehow, or I may have the dart separately and actually just do a pleat. Not sure at the moment. I'm going to do that drawing, see how that works. Okay, well, after much head scratching I have managed to work this out. I only have one dart on the front because the difference at the front is different on me. Yeah, don't ask, but anyway, it is. Bootylicious. I have more in the rear end than I do on the front. I took this pocket a little bit off several patterns that I have and then adapted it for this dress. So I have, this always turns my head around, but I have now the pocket facing, I have the pocket lining, and I also have the pocket yoke. So this bit goes, so the pocket yoke will basically fill in the space there so that it'll be a complete skirt. And of course what I have done here is I have made sure that the width here is the same as the top, because I want it to fit, I want it to match perfectly with the bottom of the top part of the dress. So what I've done is this lines up with the A-line, this lines up with the side seam, and then I've actually allowed a little bit more room here. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting in a pleat here. Now I may put in a pleat on either side, or I may use that extra space and put in a bit of a faux button placket, so the button placket coming down the front will sort of carry onto the skirt a bit. Not really sure at the moment. We'll work that through as we go. This is the lining, the facing for the pocket, and then this is the essentially the pocket bag that will be probably in a lining fabric so that to reduce the bulk. Or maybe even light cotton. I'm not really sure what that's going to be like. Generally what I do is I go through my my scraps box and find something that's sort of appropriate. So that's that. At long last we have the skirt. Now, once I'd done all of this drafting, I had this awful feeling that it wasn't going to fit on the fabric, because of course now, rather than straight skirt, I've made A-line and flared it out and all the rest of it. But I have just tried that out and it does all fit. The next job, of course, is to lay all my pattern pieces out on my fabric and cut it out. So it's another weekend. I've been doing all sorts of other little projects in between, but I have a few hours, so I want to get on with my Liberty print dress. And I think I left you, I should look back on the footage really, but I think I left you with having worked out all the pattern, the skirt, the pockets, the top, lining everything up, darts, all that malarkey. So at the same time what I did was this Liberty print, obviously I washed it first because it's a cotton and I didn't want it to shrink after I'd made it. So I did wash it, but with it being a twill fabric, it is sort of stretched out of alignment. Twills have a sort of a diagonal weave and it can get a little bit tricky. So I spread all the fabric out and I stretched it and I pulled a thread on each end of it. So I don't know if some people might not know this, but if you've got a woven fabric, you can actually pull one of the threads and those threads will be on the straight of grain. So I've sort of pulled the threads, trimmed both sides to the straight of grain and then really worked on getting it straight. So I need to unwrap this, put my pattern pieces on, and we hope that it all fits now I've done all these alterations. Fingers crossed. There are lots of little pieces with this dress because of course the bodice is all, well, I'm wearing the dress. I put it on because I thought it'd be handy if I've actually got it on. There are lots of pieces in this pattern. There's a princess seams down here, so there's a little piece here, there's a piece here, a piece here, a little piece here. The back, same, 3 pieces on the back. There are 2 separate sleeves. There is collar pieces back and front, pockets on there, front, back, lots. I don't think I'm going to pattern match this because it's such a busy print that I really don't think you're going to notice it anyway. And with all these pieces and they're curved, I think it would be almost impossible to pattern match. So yeah, I'm not going to pattern match. I'm just going to lay them out and go with that. So I have it all cut out now, all the pieces cut, marked, all the tailor's tacks done, found a new project bag, and this is going to go in here now. It's the end of the weekend, so this is as far as I'm going to be able to get in this little session, but at least I have it cut out now, which is pleasing. So the next thing obviously will be to start, I might just overlock everything around the outside and then start to stitch up. Because often I'll do, like on this dress I did French seams, but this this sort of corduroy, needle cord type stuff it's got a little weight to it and I don't think it will work well in French seams. So I think I'm just going to do overlocked edges on this. And the pattern is so busy, the inside are white, so a white overlock thread I think will be fine. That's the plan at this point. So it's Anzac Day today, a special extra day, Friday. So I've had so many projects on the go. I've been trying to juggle a bunch of different projects all at the same time. So anyway, I have a bit of time to get back onto this dress, which I really wanted to do. I have done a little bit of overlocking here and there, stay stitched the neck edge, and I've also just done the pockets and the pocket lining pieces together off camera because oh, it does my head in something rotten. I can't, every time, it's in my pattern. I mean, it's my pattern, I made it. I should know what's going on, but trying to get all these bits the right way around so that when they're in the pocket, it works, it's very complicated. And all the pattern pieces are sort of like that, like which way up is that? Like, very complicated. Anyway, so I think I have it now. That's the bit, that's the extra bit that fills in the gap. I don't know what that's called, the pocket maybe. This is the pocket bag and that's the pocket lining, which of course has to be backwards, and all the seams then are on the outside because when you put your hand in you don't want to have any linings. So I've done that. This is a little bit of lining that I've actually used from the waistcoat. Whether it's coming out before or after this, I'm not sure. I've just finished that, and now I thought I'd get on with this. So this is lining from the waistcoat that was left over. I didn't use all the lining that we bought, so I had a bit left over. Happened to be exactly the right colour for my dress. So rather fortuitously, I'm just using that because I just thought that if I keep this all the way down, it could get a bit sort of bulky, essentially. So we have the pockets done. The next thing to do, of course, is to stitch this onto the pocket. I'll just show you here. So the next bit, of course, is to stitch this front bit, stitch the pocket onto the front bit, then I can turn it around, bring it up, and then we'll have a complete front bit with pockets, and then the construction hopefully will be a little bit easier at that point. So what I'm going to do is actually construct the bodice first, trim the seams because they need to be relatively small to accommodate the curving, and maybe even snip it if I need to, although there is quite a bit of stretch in this fabric, so I may not need to snip it, which will be great. And then I'm just going to sort of overlock them together. I think that's going to be the easiest way to get the neatest finish on the inside and minimize the bulk, because as I say, French seams I don't think are going to work on this. If I overlock now and do a sort of a wider seam, then I'll probably have to sort of trim it and snip it because of the curves anyway. So anyway, I'm just going to overlock as I go. Is this making sense? Let's get these pockets sorted in here, and then I will probably, what will I do then? Construct the skirt? I could construct the skirt then, couldn't I? And then move on to the bodice. Maybe we'll do that. Right, onwards. Okay, I have it. I have the pockets now on, and it looks, even then I just did it again. I went, oh, it's on back to front, but no, it's supposed to be, because that goes back like that and then turns up like that and then is a pocket. Right, that's right. What I'm going to do now, of course, is trim, grade and clip this seam so that when I fold it over there will be less bulk, and I'll probably top stitch around this edge as well, because there's going to be a lot of wear and tear of me putting things in my pockets, and that'll just make it a little bit more stable, I think. Okay, so there's my trimmed and graded seam. So I've cut one closer and one further away to reduce the bulk in any one area. I'm just going to see if I can turn it, but if not, then I will clip it as well. Just going to turn my machine onto 3 for top stitching. That's great. Ran out of bobbin thread. Oh, don't you hate when that happens? Yep. Okay, so start again. Okay, I did manage to successfully top stitch and now I'm just pinning and sewing down the pockets to make a pocket. Basically, I'm sewing down this side of the pocket and then sewing this to the side. So there's the pocket. I need to sew down the side to actually create the pocket, and then sew the bag and everything to itself. So that's what I'm doing next. And the other thing I need to do is actually do the darts on the back. And once the darts on the back are done as well, I can actually join the skirt together, which will be cool. And of course try it on, make sure it'll fit, because of course when I do these patterns I'm making it up, so who knows what's going to happen. Okay, I'm doing the side seams now. Now this could be a mistake. Those are my interfacing pieces. This could be a mistake because I don't know if I need to put a side zip in it yet, but I'm going to do the side seams and hopefully I won't. And if I do, I'll unpick it. That's all that's going to happen. So there we go. Okay, so I have just put the skirt together, sewed the back seams, sewed the front to the back, have a sort of a skirt if you like, and the darts don't line up on the back. On the back it doesn't line up with the back of the bodice, because I'm just pinning it together going, it doesn't line up. Not that it really matters, because the pattern is so busy, I have noticed that actually you can't really see the seam lines anyway, but I do sort of want to get it right. Clearly the top is multiple pieces, so this is a princess seam that comes through, so I can't clearly move that because it's multiple pieces of fabric. But there's no reason I can't move the darts, so basically I could just unpick these darts and put them in the right position. But what I'm going to do is carry on putting the top together, and then once I have the top together I can unpick this and put them in the right place as I'm ready to attach the two bits together. I have put the skirt on very vaguely. It's really difficult to see because it's the skirt of a dress, not a skirt, so it seems really baggy and things, but it's sort of a dress skirt, so that often isn't the same as a fitted skirt that you'd have a waistband on. Partly because I don't like my clothes too tight. You know, if I'm wearing a skirt, obviously it has a waistband, but on a dress I prefer a bit of room, so it's not designed to be super fitted at the waist. The front is lining up, so that's good, because the pockets, obviously I can't move the pockets and I can't move the princess seams of the top either, but that is working. It's just on the back. So I've looked at the pattern and yeah, I don't know, brain fart, something's going on, it's just in the wrong place. I don't know how I managed that. I just worked it out and put it in the wrong place. So not a biggie, I can fix that. Hopefully that's the only thing that's going to go wrong with this project. There's always things that go wrong with the project, and then you have to figure it out as you go along. So I know why it's gone wrong, and I think I can fix it. So then I'm just going to carry on putting the top together. I do actually need to cut the interfacing next, because obviously I need to interface the front panels where the buttons go, and then there's also interfacing in the collar. I'm just going to use a very light interfacing, and I'm going to go with white because the back of the garment is white. Yeah, light interfacing will do the job. I don't want to add to any bulk, but I just do want that stabilizing, because that fabric of course does have some stretch in it, and it's a sort of a diagonal stretch as well, so I definitely want some interfacing for the button bands. Okay, so I have put the collar together, I have stitched the princess seams on here. I haven't done the shoulder seams yet, I'm not quite sure how this fits onto it yet. But I might leave this collar till tomorrow because it's getting a bit late. It's not that late, but I fancy stopping and having a beer now. And yeah, I'll just do the side seams. Maybe alter those darts so I'm good to go tomorrow with them in the right place. And then I'll deal with the collar tomorrow with a fresh head. That's probably the way to go. Well, good morning. Completely a new day now. We're working on this dress. Now I've realised that I got on with this and did a bit more than you would have last seen a couple of seconds ago. So what have I done? I have added the collar. So really pleased with that. It took quite a lot of effort to figure out how to do it, because of course when you make your own patterns, even if you do a clone from a pattern that you did years ago, there are no instructions. So of course I had no instructions on to how to put this collar on. So I really had to sort of figure it out, but I did. I had a look. Let me just put my tea down. I had to look at the grey dress and sort of have a really good look at how I'd actually done that, and then I could do the same on this dress. It might make sense to actually put in some instructions in with the pattern, but I won't do that because where would the fun be in that? It'd ruin all the fun of going, what do I do now? So we have the collar on, which I think is looking rather nice. I was quite pleased with the way it went together. I didn't top stitch around this. I decided after my waistcoat debacle with putting that top stitch on that I thought I didn't want to do it, so I've actually understitched a little bit, and hopefully that will work because this presses quite nicely. So I think that'll do. I've done the side seams on the bodice, and all of that. So it is actually a sort of a little gilet now, which I could put on. I have undone the darts on the back that wasn't working, and I think the next thing is going to be to try this on. Well, connect the skirt to the bodice, because one of the things that I found is that without the darts, the skirt is the same width as the back of the bodice. There's been an error here somewhere, hasn't there? So I'm thinking what I'm going to do now is actually pinch in sort of a dart all the way through. So almost sort of take out some of the princess seam down the back and then obviously come into the dart in the skirt. So I think that'll work. I slipped this on just very quickly, and there is quite a lot of room in the back, so I think that will work quite well. The trick will be, can I still get it on over my head without trying to put a side, I don't want to put a side zip in basically. So I think what I'm going to do is pin it together now and give it a test run and work out where I'm going from here. The collar is completely finished. I've even done the hand stitching on the inside, so I'm really pleased with that. So it's now just the skirt to attach, and then of course the sleeves. I need to do the sleeves and figure out how that all goes together. But the first thing to figure out, of course, is this dart situation at the back. I have it together. I'm quite pleased with that. I have actually put the pleats to the side on the front. The pockets, of course, come in here. And I put the pleats to the side. I was originally wondering whether to put a big pleat in the front. It's incredibly difficult to see, isn't it? Because it's such a busy fabric. But this is the overlap, and there will of course be some buttons coming down here. And I was originally thinking maybe I'd carry on like a pleat down here to make it look as if the overlap carried on. That's what I did on the grey dress. But I think I quite like little pleats to the side and a flat front. So I think that's quite nice with the pockets there like that as well. I'm quite pleased with the fit at the waist now. It's not really tight, but it's got a little room, but I think it's still sort of nipped in and quite flattering. The side view, I don't know if I can show you the side view. Can I show you the side view? The side view, as you can see now with these darts, it's sort of brought it in, and actually taking in the back on the bodice has really brought it in as well. So I like the way it's fitting at the back. I like the skirt, the way it's got more fullness at the back than it has at the front. So at the front, if you can see, it's more of a sort of a straight, it's slightly A-line, but it's more of a straight fit. And then as you go to the back, it's got a little bit more kick out, which is rather nice, I think. I quite like that. So the only thing, you're pleased with the collar. I mean, how am I going to show you the collar? Here we go. Pleased with the collar. It's not beautifully sort of pressed or worn in yet, but I'm pleased with the collar. It seems a bit big at the side seams. I might adjust that when I put on the sleeves. But often when you have a dress and it has sleeves, it will seem bigger than you would expect here. But it would be quite simple because there's a seam up here, just to take that in. But what I might do is just work out the sleeves first and see how that's going to work. But yeah, pleased with it. I'm going to do it like this, I think. And yeah, fits nicely and I can get it over my head. So that's a win. Okay, so onto the sleeves. I have gathered the sleeve head and pinned it on. I had this awful moment where I thought I'd cut two of the same sleeve, you know, when you do two rights or two lefts. Done that before. And I thought, no, I'm sure I did it right. And yes, no, it was just me having a panic attack. Hot, cold, oh my God, because I've got no more fabric left apart from little tiny scraps. So, but it's all okay. So I have pinned on that sleeve head. And I actually ended up doing quite a lot of little adjustments on the bodice because it was a bit big and it wasn't quite right. So I had to take in a bit and then I had to cut the sleeve, little adjustments all over the place. And what I've decided is that this princess seam top, this bodice, actually came off a clone of a very favourite dress that I had years ago. and I just basically took it apart and then drew around the fabric pieces that I'd obviously deconstructed, and from that made the pattern. But I think what I'm going to do is actually go from the other end, take my fitted bodice block, of which I have one, and actually turn that into a princess seam bodice. I can use the same collar and put that on because the collar I like, and I shall match up the fit and those sorts of things, well, the vague fit, let's say. But I think I want to go from the other end because there's quite a few things with this that don't actually match up very well. Anyway, that's the plan. I'm just going to get on with these sleeves. I've put them on. This is another thing, the sleeves, of course, on the original dress, I have quite, I'm small up here, so the shoulders were too big on the original dress, and every time I make this, the grey dress, this dress, I have to take it in on the shoulders, and I forget when I do it. So I thought, no, it's another reason why I'm going to start from the other end. But essentially I had to take off a couple of centimetres to bring it onto my shoulders, which means then I have to readjust the sleeve head and la 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 la, and on it goes. So I'm going to start making a new bodice block, but not today. Today I am going to try and finish these sleeves, because if I can finish these sleeves, get the sleeves on, get the bodice attached to the skirt, my daughter's coming this weekend and I can get her to do the dreaded hemming. So that would be very useful, which would mean that I might be able to hem this, get the buttons, buttonholes done, all that. And maybe it will be next week's video. We will see. Okay, sleeves are on. Whoop, whoop, stormy now. And then the skirt. So the next thing to do is to actually figure out what to do on the end of these sleeves, because they're a 3/4 sleeve. They just come down to about here. I quite like a 3/4 sleeve because I'm always sort of busy doing things with my hands, and I find even if I have a cuff that comes down to here, when I'm busy doing stuff, I will sort of roll it up to that sort of bracelet length or a little bit above. So, but it's a raw edge, and I thought if I just turn it up and put a cuff on, it's going to be quite wide and a little strange, I think. So what I did with the grey dress was I actually put on a little cuff, and I've got a few sort of scrap pieces left, so I've got enough fabric to make a little sort of cuff piece. So I'll probably put a little cuff piece on the end. I don't have a pattern piece for that, so I'll need to just work that out and do something on the end of the sleeve. Okay, so just a quick little bit of work on Sunday to try and finish this dress because I've done the bulk of it. I do have the skirt attached now, so it is a full dress, skirt and bodice. The bodice I had to do some tweaks to, that is now attached. I have the sleeves on, and I ended up putting a little cuff on the end. So I've done it, I've brought it in on the sleeve because the sleeve is quite wide, so I brought it into the cuff, and I've done a little bit of a pleat. You can see that there. I've just pleated it in to the cuff, which means of course that now it's a little slimmer on the arms. This has got a little stretch in it, so I think it'll be comfortable just to sort of sit there, and sort of a neater finish than just having a sort of a wide sleeve. So all I need to do now is do the buttonholes. My daughter did come round and kindly pin the hem for me, which is a horrid job, but we've just got it just below the knee, which is the length that I like particularly for my body shape and height and all the rest of it. So hem, buttonholes, buttons, and then it will be the reveal.